Good morning, everyone. My name is Mary, and I'm delighted to be your worship associate this morning. And I do have to forewarn you that there have been several changes in the order of service, and I might stumble, but don't worry about it. I'll catch up. All will be well. So, welcome to everyone present in the worship hall this morning, and to those of you taking part via electronic streaming from your home or wherever you may be. We acknowledge that our FirstU campus is located on traditional, unsurrendered, and unceded Algonquin and Anishinaabe territory, and that the work of reconciliation is a responsibility of our congregation and of all Canadians. Our goal is to educate ourselves and all who have ears to hear, to be of service to those who are at risk, and to advocate for justice. Do take care and take advantage of online opportunities at FirstU to stay in touch during this time. If you are new to FirstU and would like to learn more about us, please contact us through our email at welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. Following our service at 11:30 a.m., please join us as well for a special version of our traditional hospitality hour. You will find the Zoom link on our website at www.firstunitarianottawa.ca or in our weekly email newsletter, the EUU. And now, here are Reverend Eric and Kathy Yaw for a special social justice announcement.
I'm going to be brief. This congregation has a long and storied history with refugee resettlement work. Kathy, will you tell us the latest and how we can help out?
Hi, as you know, we are presently working with the Ohasha and a member of the Syrian community here in Ottawa, the brother Mohammed, to bring a 9-member family here within the next 2 years. Originally, they're from Syria and are now living in Jordan, and the family have family members here in Ottawa. I just would like to make one appeal, is that we need to raise X number of dollars, as you most know, before we submit our application. And we're short about $4,000 to $5,000. So I sent out 50 emails to my friends yesterday, and now I'm appealing to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. And now Andrew Drake has announcements from our board. Andrew?
First, a note from our Environmental Action Group. Take a look in the EUU for a report of last week's rally in front of the Prime Minister's office. There might even be some photos of FirstU protesters. We continue to advocate for an immediate and just transition into a new green economy. There is a new letter, this one from the Council of Canadians, to sign today. Join in and stress the urgency, and check out our series of holiday hints. All of this can be found in the EUU. Now a note about our annual pledge drive. The 2022 pledge drive is now in the process of wrapping up. While we are excited to have reached 92% of our financial goal, it turns out about a third of our members have not yet pledged. Pledging is the way we show our commitment to the important work of FirstU. We know times are tight for many, and we welcome a pledge of any amount you are comfortable with. Please see the EUU or the FirstU website for how to make your pledge. Tomorrow night at 7 p.m., we will be hosting an in-person Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, or Gen Z, and Millennial music, games, and discussion night at the church. Join Reverend Eric and Lisa Sharp for lots of fun and discussion about future activities. COVID regulations will apply. Carpooling is available. Please RSVP to lisasharp@rogers.com. This afternoon, the Canadian Unitarian Council National Sunday Service will be held online from 1 until 2:30, and the EUU has information on how to join in. Now a note from Carol Card and the online auction team. The FirstU online auction is scheduled for early next year and is a major fundraiser for the congregation and its work. Intake is underway now and will be completed by the middle of December, and we need more items. If you have something you wish to donate, please contact our auction team at fallfairauction@firstunitarianottawa.ca. Among other items, we're looking for jewelry, silver and gold, fine art, military memorabilia, gift cards, and bottles of good wine. More information can be found on our website. Please let your friends know about this and remind them they can get a tax deduction if it is an auction item. Now I'd like to introduce, to discuss the eighth principle, Maury Prevost, Ren Martin-Doike, and Jane Lindsay to the podium.
Good morning, everyone. At a special meeting of the Canadian Unitarian Council, or CUC, yesterday afternoon, 95% of the approximately 100 voting delegates, including 6 from our congregation, decisively approved the addition of an eighth principle for our movement. I was one of our 6 delegates. The others were Jane Lindsay and Ren Martin-Doike, who have joined me here on the podium, and Guy Belperche, Carl Sonnen, and Lisa Sharp. Here is the wording, starting with the preamble that applies to all of the principles. We, the member congregations of the Canadian Unitarian Council, covenant to affirm and promote individual and communal action that accountably dismantles racism and systemic barriers to full inclusion in ourselves and our institutions. This is a historic decision that is now being celebrated by many of us. It is just the end of the beginning, because it is necessary to continue the hard and long-term work of living and fully realizing this new principle in our congregation and in our national movement. This work includes adopting the eighth principle and other recommendations of the CUC's Dismantling Racism Study Group in our own congregation, now that the national organization and some other congregations have taken these steps. Continuing and expanding on the work in our congregation to dismantle racism and remove other barriers to full inclusion. This will take years, even decades, so it requires a long-term commitment. The next step will be some sessions to be planned in the first half of the new year. Thirdly, looking at governance and decision-making processes that are more inclusive. The CUC is forming a team led by young adults to explore options. Fourthly, the CUC has also launched a review of its bylaw to establish a process for reviewing and amending the principles, something that is currently lacking. And finally, we want to reach out to people who are not currently celebrating this decision in our congregation and elsewhere. Our delegates and board look forward to sharing this work with all of you and thank all who participated in getting us to this point. We hope you'll join us on this journey. And now I'd like to call on Ren to make a few additional comments.
Thank you, Maury. It's a great honor to be speaking with you today, and it also was very meaningful for me, both as a member of this congregation, but also having a chance to be a delegate nationally to vote on this decision. I just wanted to share with you a few things from the breakout room discussions among Indigenous, Black, and people of color. I think I got so much inspiration and also drew on the strength. We had an Indigenous elder with us yesterday to discuss things, particularly afterwards. And I just wanted to share some of their words with you. And they said, not everything is personal. Sometimes there's no one that wants to exclude you, who wants to discriminate against you. Sometimes it's just the system. Sometimes it's just lack of awareness. but it still hurts nonetheless. It still feels personal. And I myself experienced a little of this almost not being allowed to speak in yesterday's discussion. But I'm really proud not only of the results of the vote, but also of the fact that so many of our other delegates and representatives from this congregation and from many others stood up to say that this was too an example of the system failing us a bit. And so I just want to remind everyone here and for those listening online that though exclusion or discrimination may not come personally from us, and it may not be our fault, we can still be a part of the positive change, to listen to others, to reflect thoughtfully, and to move forward together. Thank you very much.
During the continuing responses to COVID, we encourage you to sign up to receive the EUU, our weekly email newsletter, check our Facebook page and our webpage for notices and updates. Our calendar is as full as ever, albeit much of it online. Whatever your heritage, whatever your faith, whomever you love and however you identify, today you are a part of our spiritual community.
Bonjour, mes amis. And before I go on with lighting our chalice, I just want to say that I wasn't a delegate yesterday, I was an observer, and it was an honor to be among the other Unitarian ministers of Canada observing that historic event. Colleagues back in the States are taking note of our stand here in Canada. My name is the Reverend Eric Meter, and I am honored to serve this faith community. We light our chalice this morning to these words, adapted from those by my colleague Deborah Falk, retired from our congregation in Calgary. A chalice lit in our midst is a symbol of a liberal faith, a faith built upon the foundations of freedom, reason, and welcome, a faith sustained by acts of kindness and justice, a faith that envisions a world flourishing with equality for all people, a faith that demands the living out of goodness, a faith that requires thoughtfulness, a faith of wholeness. This tiny flame is the symbol of the spark of all of this within each of us. Our chalice is lit. And now our opening song. Our music director, Jen Bernstein, has the day off, so Deirdre Kellerman is here with us this morning to fill in. Deirdre, welcome back. Our opening song is, O God, Our Help in Ages Past.
O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter from the stormy blast, and our eternal home. May like an evening gone, short as the watch that ends the night before the rising sun.
Thank you, Deirdre. That was lovely. The call to worship is adapted from words by Beverly and David Bombau. This faith community exists to proclaim the gospel that each human being is infinitely precious, that the meaning of our lives lies hidden in our interactions with each other. We wish to be a church where we encounter each other with wonder, appreciation, and expectation, where we call out of each other strengths, wisdom, and compassion that we never knew we had. Come, let us worship together.
My name is Reverend Ellen Bell. I'm the spiritual care visitor for this congregation. At this time in the service, we welcome people's personal joys and sorrows, and we indicate these by placing stones in water and allowing the ripples to take those wishes out to the universe, where people may congratulate or commiserate. Our first stone today is for Doug, who is undergoing medical treatment. A celebratory stone for the 60th anniversary of the Canadian Unitarian Council. And another celebratory stone for our Lotta Hitchmanova. And if you don't know Lotta, she's at the back. Who was born on this date in 1909. So this would be her 112th birthday. Hanukkah starts this evening, so happy Hanukkah to all our Jewish friends. And, oh, I forgot the stone. Oop, there we go. And a sad note about the continuing rainfall and floods in British Columbia. And in the east, they've had problems with flooding in parts of Nova Scotia, particularly Cape Breton, and also in Newfoundland. So it seems to be either feast or famine. There's either a drought or a flood, and at the moment, those folks are dealing with floods, so let's hope the rain stops soon. And I'll put one last stone for all the thoughts, joys, and sorrows kept in our hearts. And we will now have a moment of silence.
Now, this is one of those parts I told you about. The story is called Wishing, I believe. Maybe. Oh, Well, you know what? It says wishing in my script. But anyway, obviously, it's maybe. As a matter of fact, lo and behold, on the front page, it does indeed say maybe. So, Reverend Eric was going to read the story, and I was going to hold up the pictures. So I was practicing, and then he said to me, "Would you like to read the story instead?" And I said, "Oh, yes, I'd much rather read the story." So I especially want to point out to you, and I hope Reverend Eric will show this each time, that there was a little piglet on each page. It's a beautiful little piglet. And he is very important to the story, because I want you to listen to the very last page and look at the very last page when we get there. So, yes, I'm going to read to you maybe. Have you ever wondered why you are here? You are the only you there ever has been or ever will be. You have so much to offer. Notice a little piglet. He needs training also. Maybe you will invent something that no one has ever seen before. Maybe you will build things that reach high into the sky. Your life is yours. Try as many things as you can try. See as much as you can see. Wherever you go, take your hopes, pack your dreams, and never forget, it is on journeys that discoveries are made. Maybe you will help others to see the beauty in each day. Or maybe you will lift cheering crowds onto their feet. Do everything with love. Follow your heart and see where it leads you. Maybe you are here to shine a light into places that have been dark for far too long. Maybe you will speak up for those who can't speak for themselves. Maybe you are here to help in ways that only you can. There will be struggles, there will be fears, and it won't always be easy. At times it will feel really hard and you might make a mess of things. You may fall down. You may fail. But you will also get back up and you will rise a little stronger and a little taller. Because there really is more inside you than you know. And this world needs your gifts, your talents, your big ideas. And maybe you are just getting started. What if you're only scratching the surface of what you can do and who you can be? What if you have talents you haven't discovered yet? There is something powerful, even magical, about you. You already have everything it takes to do big things. Maybe you have no idea just how good you really can be, and maybe you don't know how much you matter. But maybe, just maybe, the world has been waiting centuries for someone exactly like you. One thing is for sure, you are here, and because you are here, anything is possible. And I will show this last page to Deirdre, because pigs can indeed fly. Thank you, Reverend Eric. It's beautiful. Our reading for this morning is from two sections of the beginning of Yuval Noah Harari's book, Lessons for the 21st Century. And this is a bit of a downer after the very much upper that I've just read to you. And we weren't supposed to be back to back, but anyway, we are. And, you know, we have to be realistic. So let's hear what Yuval Noah Harari tells us. Lessons for the 21st century. First, in a world deluged by irrelevant information, clarity is power. In theory, anybody can join the debate about the future of humanity, but it is so hard to maintain a clear vision. We might not even notice that a debate is going on or what the key questions are. Most of us can't afford the luxury of investigating because we have more pressing things to do. We have to go to work, take care of the kids, or look after elderly parents. And perhaps, I might add as a footnote, do all three at once. Unfortunately, history does not give discounts. If the future of humanity is decided in your absence because you are too busy feeding and clothing your kids, you and they will not be exempt from the consequences. This is unfair. But who said history was fair? Second, how can insights about the distant past and distant future help us make sense of current affairs and of the immediate dilemmas of human societies? What is happening right now? What are today's greatest challenges and most important choices? Of course, 7 billion people have 7 billion agendas. And thinking about the big picture is a relatively rare luxury. A single mother struggling to raise 2 children in a Mumbai slum is focused on where she will find their next meal. Refugees in a boat in the middle of the Mediterranean scan the horizon for any sign of land. A dying man in an overcrowded London hospital gathers all his remaining strength to take in one more breath. They all have far more urgent problems than global warming or the crisis of liberal democracy. No book, continues Yuval Noah Harari, no book can do justice to all of that. And I don't have lessons to teach people in such situations. I can only hope to learn from them.
Thank you, Mary. Last week, in the first of a 2-part sermon series on our relationship with the past and the future, I left you with a comment by psychologist Kay Rutledge on nostalgia. He said, "There is a big element of nostalgia that isn't about us retreating into the past. It's about us pulling the past forward to the present and using it to mobilize us, to energize us, and to take on new challenges and opportunities." Earlier in last week's reflection, I talked about how in pre-industrial thinking, the past was vast and rich, filled with stories and struggles, and the future was seen as a narrow continuation of the day-to-day drudgery. Yet in the industrial age and contemporary thinking, by and large, the future is rich, vast with possibilities, and the past is what is seen as narrow, devoid of meaning for current, modern, or postmodern experience. Now, as far as I'm concerned, both of these worldviews are limited and limiting, less than honest or fully respectful of what it means to be human. The past will always have much to teach us, because even as conditions in which we live may and will change, Human beings simply don't change that much from generation to generation. And the future, well, it can draw us forward, beckoning for our dreams and the best of our abilities to help realize them, like in the story Mary shared with us just a minute ago. Last week, to help us bring to life the richness of the past, I shared Billy Collins' poem on Turning 10 with you. This morning, to help us frame a way of looking forward to the future, I'd like to share another passage from the Israeli historian Yuval Noah Harari's book, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. Mary, I sent you a draft with the incomplete title. That's on me. It wasn't just lessons, it was 21 lessons. He writes, "When you are 15, your entire life is change. Your body is growing, your mind is developing, your relationships are deepening. Everything is in flux, and everything is new. You are busy inventing yourself. Most teenagers find it frightening, but at the same time, it's also exciting. New vistas are opening before you, and you have an entire world to conquer. By the time you're 50, you don't want change, and most people have given up on trying to conquer the world. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. You prefer stability. You have invested so much in your skills, your career, your identity, and your worldview that you don't want to start all over again. The harder you've worked on building something, the more difficult it is to let go of it and make room for something new. You might still cherish new experiences and minor adjustments, but most people in their 50s aren't ready to overhaul the deep structures of their identity. There are neurological reasons, Harari continues. There are neurological reasons for this, he continues. Though the adult brain is more flexible and voluble than once thought, it is still less malleable than the teenage brain. Reconnecting neurons and rewiring synapses is hard work. But in the 21st century, you can't afford stability. If you try to hold on to some stable identity, job, or worldview, you risk being left behind as the world flies by you with a whoosh. Given that life expectancy is likely to increase, you might subsequently have to spend many decades as a, his words, not mine, clueless fossil. To stay relevant, not just economically, but above all, socially, you will need the ability to constantly learn and to reinvent yourself, certainly at a young age, like 50. Now, Harari was born in 1974. He was 44 when he published those words in 2018. As someone who is 57 himself, I'm tempted to ask what he thought he knew then about 50. But I agree with him. I agree that our schools, as he mentions elsewhere in his book, need to prioritize the 4 C's: critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity over the reading, writing, and arithmetic that I was instructed in. I agree with Harari when he writes, to change the world, you need to act. And even more important, you need to organize. 50 members cooperating in an organization can accomplish far more than 500 individuals, each working in isolation. If you really care about something, he says, join a relevant organization. Do it this week. He continues a little later in the book, the only thing that never works for anybody is pure intellectual speculation. You will never get answers just by reading books, discussing theories, and contemplating grand ideas. Now, I'm from the Paulo Freire School of Praxis, action and reflection, reinforcing one another, not just book learning. What I am less convinced of is Harare's understanding, based on his Vipassana meditation practice, that, as he put it, if you ask for the true meaning of life and get a story in reply, know that this is the wrong answer. The exact details don't really matter. Any story is wrong simply for being a story. The universe just does not work like a story. Now, he may be correct in this, but in my experience, to my eyes and ears, things on the human scale do work and look like an infinite number of interconnecting stories. But that may prove beyond the scope of this morning's reflection. A preacher is always glad there are more Sundays to come. The future. Wasn't that our topic? I don't know what the future will hold. I don't think any of us do. Now, that said, we can make some fairly accurate predictions. We can make some reasonable assumptions. There will be love. There will be loss. The climate crisis will continue, sadly, unfortunately. There will be challenges the like we have not yet witnessed. There will be successes. There will be failures. We will need to rise individually and as a people again and again and again. One thing I trust is that white, cisgendered, straight men like me will not be able to hold on to the power and influence we have enjoyed for generations now. When I entered seminary, there were still a few more men in the Unitarian Universalist ministry than there were women. That did not last long, and was a change I wholeheartedly celebrated. Gender norms were changing. I could be more myself in the pulpit and in my ministry than ever. This was and is liberating. But other changes have proven and are proving more challenging. On my home computer screen, I have a little yellow sticky on which I've written, "Decenter yourself, bucko." And for the last 6 years, I've served on the Unitarian Universalist Partner Church Council board. The group has been fostering and helping maintain partner relationships between congregations in North America, in Europe, to congregations in Eastern Europe, Northeast India, the Philippines, and now more recently in places in Africa. And at the end of next month, the UUPCC, I know we love our acronyms, the Partner Church Council, will cease to exist. For the last 2 years, we've been in conversation with denominational leadership and members of the International Council of Unitarians and Universalists. When the Partner Church Council began, its primary function was to form partnerships so that North American congregations could and would financially support struggling, needy Unitarian congregations in other parts of the world. The money was needed, but a power imbalance was set into effect that is no longer equitable or sustainable. To put it simply, we have tried to change our ways, to balance that power, to change our roots. But old patterns, frankly, colonialist patterns, keep rising again from our roots. And so we are going to disband the end of next month so that something else, something more equitable, may rise and hopefully flourish. This is a leap of faith. I hate that I will not be part of bringing that, whatever will come after the Partner Church Council and the ICUC, I hate that I'm not going to have a part in bringing that to life. And yet it's time for me to step aside. Decenter yourself, bucko. Remember what Harari said? To stay relevant, not just economically, but above all socially, you'll need the ability to constantly learn and reinvent yourself. As a covenantal faith, as one that holds how we relate to one another more important than any profession of belief, we find both challenge and barely dreamed of possibilities before us. To stay relevant as a faith, as a community of faith like ours, as this one, we need to be willing to reinvent ourselves from time to time. As mentioned earlier, the Canadian Unitarian Council vote yesterday was a positive step forward in that light. But as Ren has said, yesterday's vote was only providing a building permit. What we choose to do is up to us, and frankly, an open question. All of that is wider scope than us here, the First Unitarian Congregation of Ottawa. Here in this room or wherever you may be watching this, those in front of a computer right now or smartphone. So what about this faith community? What's to come of us? What is in store for our future? What do we want our future to be? Light rail and other subsequent development projects are already underway. Construction, we can fully expect, will be with us for the next several years, not even considering any future development we may undertake, and I know efforts are ongoing and soon to be shared more widely. I'm looking forward to learning myself. And yet, while all of that will and does affect us, these are not necessarily efforts from our core. And others on the development committee may be saying, or the campus planning committee saying, I'm not so sure about that, Eric. We'll get there. At a meeting of this congregation's leadership council at the start of this month, I asked once more, what is it that only this faith community can do? What is, hearkening back to the story Mary shared with us, what is our gift? What can we do? What can we bring into existence that's never been seen before? What gift to Ottawa can we bring that no other institution in this city will? And at that Leadership Council meeting early in the month, I recalled a story from another congregation, the First Unitarian Church of Portland, Oregon. This is an old, established congregation that at the edge of Portland's downtown that has seen its share of ups and downs over the last 170-some years. They're about as old as this congregation, I think. 30 years ago now, the state of Oregon was considering an anti-gay rights ballot initiative. The director of a GLBTQ group called Outside In reached out to the church and asked if they would wrap the entire church block in a large yellow ribbon and declare itself a hate-free zone. The congregation immediately agreed, and their minister, the Reverend Marilyn Sewell, spoke out to the media. The ballot initiative in Oregon ended up failing, and the congregation, seen as walking its talk, visibly walking its talk, began growing in membership like never before. And I'm talking about 550 members to over 1,600. 3 times, folks. That's a terrifying problem to have, frankly. Remember Harari. To stay relevant, you will need the ability to constantly relearn and reinvent yourself. Now, I'm not saying I know just how best to do this. I'm still asking the question, what can we do better than any other institution in this city? What gift can we uniquely bring from the core of who we are as a faith community? I don't have an answer for that yet. I have ideas, but I realize I don't need to have the answer right now. When I was in seminary, one of the things I picked up, and I'm not sure I really agree with it in literal truth, but the metaphoric truth has stayed with me. My late preaching instructor, Ron Cook, also taught Unitarian Church history, and he said, when he looks back at the past, he sees that in every other generation there is a push for social change. And so he said, you need to think about who you are. Are you a revolutionary, or are you one who are going to help support the next generation of revolutionaries? And I realized when I heard him say that as much as I considered myself a young Turk and wanted to be a revolutionary, I wasn't. And then it fell to me to do everything I could, everything I can, to help pave the way for the next generation to make the necessary changes. That's what I've been doing in ministry ever since. This afternoon at 1 o'clock, fittingly, the Canadian Unitarian Council annual worship service. This is a big deal, folks, commemorating its 60th anniversary. That worship service will be conducted by our younger members, our young adults. I'm going to watch and I'm going to listen. And I encourage all of you to do the same. The future is worth paying attention and giving all we can to those who are going to make it. Standing on, and I'm speaking to those of my generation and older, but looking out, most of you are, we need to have the strong shoulders that others will then stand on and stand tall. Join me in that the next generations deserve all the help, support, and love we can give them, wherever they go. Wherever they go. Thank you. And now, our Chalice Choir, for the first time in a long time, since they've been rehearsing here again on Thursday nights, have recorded Be Like the Bird, or The Pig That Can Fly, using text by Victor Hugo. Those words are, "Be like the bird that, pausing in her flight, a while on boughs too slight, feels them give way beneath her, and sings, knowing she hath wings."
Thank you, Jen and the Chalice Choir, for this musical presentation. I think we all agree how much music adds to the service. During the continuing pandemic, we are not passing collection baskets among those in Worship Hall. Instead, there are donation baskets available at the back of the hall, and there will be people standing at each of the center aisles if you wish to contribute. Please remember that our generosity is as needed today as ever and is even more gratefully received. For those of you watching this, when and wherever you may be, you are invited to go to our website, or contact our finance manager to find out how you might keep up with your pledge or make a donation. Our gifts are freely and gratefully received. We dedicate these gifts to the work of this community of faith, serving human wholeness, caring for the planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another.
Be that guide whom love sustains, rise above the daily strife, lift on high the good you find, help to heal the hurts of life. Be that helper nothing daunts, doubt a friend or taunt a foe, ever strive for liberty, show the path that life should go. Be that builder trusting good, bitter though the test may be, through all ages they are right, though they build in agony. Be that teacher faith directs, move beyond the old frontier, though the fright and fear that faith be tomorrow's pioneer.
Thank you, Deirdre. To those in our worship hall, we welcome you to congregate safely, either inside this room or outside once this worship service has concluded. Fellowship hall and this room are available to you for roughly half an hour after the close of this service. And as you have become accustomed, please be mindful to stay masked and maintain social distancing. Before our time of worship is complete, let me leave you with these words by Andrzej Boronsky for our chalice extinguishing. You may find it interesting to know that Andrzej grew up in Costa Rica with a Polish father and a Costa Rican mother. He writes, "I will engage the present with all my heart. I will let my emotions and feelings burgeon sincerely in order to experience the fullness of life. I will see the best in other people and will be an instrument that plays a tune of hope and love. My words and actions will be measured by the golden rule. The past will be a source of inspiration and meditation. Gratitude will induce positive decisions in the present with which I will build a better future, one day at a time." And speaking of a better future, if you are here in Worship Hall and have keen ears, you may have noticed that in recent weeks that others present and I have been quietly humming along as Jen sings our beloved song, Spirit of Life. Well, this week, the congregation's COVID task force took up the issue and has weighed in on this informal practice. Friends, humming along is just fine. Quietly. With that said, Deirdre, will you please bless us this morning again?
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, cool domaine, vida spari de justice, ternurima, cielum porte-moi, source de vie, viens vers moi, viens vers moi.
And now, if you would, staying within your bubble, but reach out to those beyond yourself, others here sharing this space. Go in peace, my friends. The sun is shining bright. Go in love, go in joy. And with the spark of our eyes, the smile on our face, and the care and compassion of our hands, may we help bring all to be well. Go in peace. Thank you. Amen.